Okay, so this is going to be a very sparsely edited video since I'm trying to just make a quick prediction before Zenless Zone 0 version 1.4 comes out tomorrow. Because with the release of Miyabi's character teaser, we got a better glimpse of how the absolute elites of New Eridu's government, the TOPS organization, actually run their operations, and how it is that these people are probably hiding a whole lot more evil than we initially thought. Funnily enough, a lot of the things that they are doing are very similar in terms of the moral ambiguity that we can see be a factor in some of the things we see big industry players and governments do in real life. So be ready for some bits of references between fiction and non-fiction. Without further ado, the name's Leafy, and welcome back to Let's Talk Slow About Games, Zenless Edition. Right, let's take this from the top. Or shall I say, tops? Yeah, sue me, I don't care. So let's start with understanding what is TOPS. It is currently rather unclear whether or not TOPS is recognized to be more of a clique of people and organizations that seem to pretty much run New Eridu, less of an actual and officially structured organization, and more of a buzzword used to describe the most powerful and influential entities in the civilization's governance. However, both Nicole and Belle also describes TOPS as an alliance, so there may be some sort of actual structural body that the group really follows. To understand the differences, for those of you who are familiar with real-life accounting and consulting industries, TOPS may pretty much be the Big Four of New Eridu's own industries. While the accounting Big Four in real life consists of the professional service companies like KPMG, Ernst & Young, PwC, and Deloitte, they are not actually a real and officially made group, meaning that while those entities might have some dealings with one another, they are not at all connected with one another in any structural way, at least that we know of in public. However, TOPS could also be something like NATO, where instead of nations and treaties, they are a group of corporations or organizations who have specially made agreements and terms that applies to the entities that operate within that alliance. Most of the time, these agreements will be made to benefit one another and allows those entities to maintain a monopoly of the market share of their respective industries. Now, whether or not you think they have the right to do that kind of thing, well, the real world plays differently, baby. And it seems like Zenless is trying to set their world up to be the same way, so ironically, very realistic to say the least. Now, unlike the Big Four or NATO, we have yet to actually know who or what is part of this TOPS group and just exactly how many entities form this group. The only thing we can understand so far is that there's some sort of either massive financial success or some sort of vital fiduciary responsibility that the group has towards the people of New Eridu that these particular entities must achieve or create in order to first and foremost simply be taken into consideration to join the ranks of TOPS. The biggest example of it in this game's story is of course none other than the Vision Corporation, the antagonist of the first arc of Zenless' story and the prime competition of Billabong Heavy Industries. They won the bid to undergo the project of demolishing and reconstructing the old capital metro and was aiming to find a way to join TOPS through the project's success. However, it was then revealed that they were able to cut so much of the proposed cost and win the project tender because they were planning to demolish the metro without evacuating and relocating the people who lived in the nearby Canvas Street, which would have definitely cost them way more money. And this seems to be the one important aspect that people will have to take note of when it comes to operations and storylines that will deal with any TOPS interference. Because it is clear that TOPS prioritizes their end goal and bottom line regardless of whatever consequences arise from the means they use to maintain them. Sarah, the mysterious businesswoman who worked with Vision Corporation, seemed to be someone who is very familiar with the way TOPS operates and is using the leader, Perlman, to work around the project in a way that would not only see them be recognized by TOPS, but to also use methods that seem to fit that of TOPS' modus operandi. More on that in a bit. Considering the fact that it was noted that Sarah wasn't employed by Vision Corp and was rather working with them under a different employer, coupled with Perlman's confidence that this project was their key to getting into TOPS, seems to suggest that Sarah's employer might very well be someone who has quite a key connection to play within TOPS itself. Now, all of these corporate shenanigans seem to fall in line with the new lore we got from Miyabi's character teaser, where it was revealed that in the meeting discussing the Argos Hollow mission that got Miyabi the title of being a hero of New Eridu, could have played an entirely different way, which would have led to the loss of hundreds of lives in many fronts of New Eridu's civilization. But it wouldn't be because the ethereals within Argos Hollow would finally overwhelm the sector, but it was because TOPS had initially wanted for H.A.N.D to simply blow up the Shiyu pillar that Argos Hollow was about to swallow whole and get rid of the ethereals that way. Mind you, this is a Shiyu pillar, and these things are essentially giant constructs which stores massive amount of inert ether. So if that thing were to explode when both citizens are still being evacuated and government personnel were still trying to make that happen, then not only would the ethereals be wiped, but all those people's lives would have been lost just as well. As Yanagi said in the teaser, 147 civilians, 36 PubSec officers, 17 investigators, and 8 executive officers. 208 people in total for what you can literally describe as premeditated collateral casualties. The thing that really drove home just how ruthless and immoral TOPS could probably be is the fact that the woman who is speaking on behalf of TOPS in that meeting literally says that Miyabi can just call it as
standard procedure,
which means that this whole sacrifice the smaller number of people for the greater good shtick is something that the entities within TOPS regularly utilizes as a way to maintain their interest. And just like what Asaba implied, TOPS had some high ambition assets to protect near Argos, which would make the conveniently surefire way of erasing the ethereals be their first method of doing things. And again, these methodologies are exactly in line with how Vision Corp was about to handle the old Capital Metro project, sacrificing a number of people under the guise of betterment for the greater good when all they wanted to do was cover their bottom line. This all becomes really important when we compare it with the first lines of the 1.4 trailer video, which says that Miyabi is about to fall under arrest. Now, they didn't say who was making the arrest, however, considering H.A.N.'s status in New Eridu's governance and the fact that TOPS is really the only other entity that can be placed as the higher authority compared to the H.A.N.D sections, then I'd rather think that TOPS is finally making their big moves in order to keep the people that could challenge or bring vulnerability to their power over New Eridu and bring these individuals or entities under their control. Because it was made very clear that Miyabi understood that TOPS clearly had some sort of corrupted mindset flowing through their midst, and she recruited Yanagi and Asaba to Section 6 because they are the ones who dared to smartly question TOPS' decisions and bring doubt to how it is that TOPS exert their power over developments that are vital to New Eridu. And it's also clear that TOPS probably fear that someone as powerful and popular as Miyabi could definitely bring their reputation to disrepute, because they were more than ready to pin the blame on Miyabi should she had failed to subdue Lerna, the ethereal that ran rampant in the Argos Hollow. They are also ruthless when it comes to tying up their loose ends, and when the null-face proxies managed to upload Miyabi's combat and synthesis data before they got captured, there must have been someone else who used that data to then make either a clone or something that makes it so that Miyabi will seem liable for any crimes it committed and damages that it caused. With how we have seen TOPS conduct their operations, it's not even too far-fetched to say that they would be the ones who were behind setting up that trap for Miyabi in the first place. If they were willing to go so far as to knock out all the passengers of a Zeppelin so that it would fly out uncontrollably into a hollow just so that they could get rid of Pearlman, who might blab and suddenly reveal that TOPS had something to do with the destructive plans that the old Capital Metro project almost went with, then I think using a method to frame one of their biggest threats and imprison them for however long they want is something that would have been more standard than any TOPS protocol we know of. And again, highly realistic compared to our own world. One example, Stalin. Well, if his opponents were lucky, imprisoned those he thought could pose a threat to his way of governing the Soviet Union. And he's not about the only one who does that in their nation's history. The most recognizable mustache man. No, not that one. That one. did that too, amongst other things. So, as far as political battles go, Tops doing that kind of thing to shut Miyabi up is probably fair game. It's also important to say that Miyabi leads the one-hand section that seems to pose the biggest threat to Top's principle of doing things. Asaba is already hinted to have some hint of ethereal influence in him, yet he is still part of the section. And Yanagi is basically a half Oni who understood that Tops's continuous hatred for the Oni race was what really prevented that race to become officially recognized as New Eridu citizens. And that is what caused the Oni to rebel against them. If Tops is able to get a Void Hunter level individual like Miyabi under their control, then the chances of them dulling the sharpest blade in Hand's possession would probably be more than assured. It is also worth mentioning that a lot of people are theorizing that Tops was actually the one responsible for the hollow explosion of old Eridu, and that they somehow found a way to blame it on Bell and Wise's mentor instead. Personally, I'm very excited how Zenless' story is shaping up. It looks more and more like a chaotically beautiful retelling of another gacha game story named Counterside, and I love the crap out of that story and wish there was a 3D and more engaging version similar to it. And Zenless is really starting to feel just like that, and it just makes me feel like wanting more. Miyabi and Tops potentially throwing down isn't the only thing that's interesting about the coming story. Like I said, Asaba seems to have his own share of things to explore from, and Wise is getting arrested? I can only imagine that all the other factions will then band together to get us out of that bind, and maybe we'd spend some patches actually playing as if we are certified fugitive proxies living in the Outer Rim instead of using the video store as a front for our business. In any case, hope you guys enjoyed this quick video. Leave a like if you want to, and do feel free to leave your thoughts in the comments down below. For those of you who are pulling for anyone in 1.4, then I wish you all the best of luck, as I sure as hell would need it considering my funds for Miyabi looks doubtful. Until the next video, the name's Leafy, and I'll see y'all next time. Sayonara.